let's start. So what we covered yesterday, we discussed about these terms, right? We discussed these terms, and I said today we are going to start with virtual networking, right? Vivek, have you done any R&D or did you find any definitions from portals yesterday regarding the vSphere standard switch kernel port and port group and stuff? Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, Vivek? I'm just checking with Vivek and Sunil. Yeah, Sunil?
I got some information about vSphere switch.
Okay.
It is a standard switch that called vSwitch, and it is installed when we install ESXi.
Okay. When you install ESXi, what will happen?
Uh, Automatically, we that vSphere switch automatically install.
Okay. Fine. Yeah. Let's see. Vivek, any inputs from you? Hello. You there? Hello. I guess he is not there. Okay. Okay. Let's start. So let's take a scenario. Remember the first class what we discussed? Okay. You have HP DL 380 Zen 10. Okay. So how many NIC cards you'll get when you purchase by default? Let's say 4 NIC cards you'll get. You understand what I'm saying? Remember the first class.
Yes, yes,
Okay. So by default you'll get a 4. That's the standard nowadays. But you can request when you are placing the purchase order for any physical server, you can request a number of NIC cards, how many NIC cards you require for your production environment. You have to decide and let them know so that they can add more NIC cards if you want. So by default, remember you'll get a 4 NIC cards and you can add up to 16 as well. If there, if this, if there is any business requirement, you want to utilize 16 NIC cards in your physical server, you can request the vendor to put 16 network interface cards so that you can utilize them in your virtual environment. So how to customize those 16 or how to customize these 4, we'll see later on. First, let's understand you have 4 by default, right? So how they will be connected? Imagine you have 2 switches. In fact, 3 switches. Okay, so what I will do, these 2 are production switches. Okay, and this is, what is this? Management. Let me switch. Okay, so you'll have a management port here, which you call it as ILO, right? You'll take one cable and you will connect here. And the second cable, remember, the second cable you will leave open, serial cable, right? And the third cable you take it and connect it to this switch. And the fourth cable connect it to the switch. Switch 1, switch 2, and management switch. Now, this setup, every component in this setup is in one data center, right? The data center has firewall, right? So this will go to firewall. Imagine the simple setup, everything will go to firewall. So from firewall, users will log in. Via firewall, users will log in, right? This is brand new ESXi, brand new HP server, and you're trying to install it on you're trying to install ESXi 6.7 on top of this brand new physical HP DL380 server. Imagine you have only two hard drives, 150 GB each SSD, right? So you configured both into RAID 1, and you created one logical drive, which is of 150 GB. Okay, now from your laptop, you have a VPN client. You connect it to this VPN, right? Firewall. You connect it to VPN. Now, from your laptop on your downloads folder, there is a 6.5 ESXi. You mounted into ILO, because if you recollect the first class, I've explained how you can install the ESXi from ILO, right? You have a remote console and virtual disk. You can mount it and you can install it. Once it is installed on top of this, during the installation, if you observe, there are some steps where you simply press next. Okay, if you recollect, at initial stage when you are installing, it will show you press F11 to continue. Okay, then it is showing discovering devices. So what it will do, it will discover all the devices and it will found this 150 GB hard drive, and it will discover everything, and it will found these two cables only. Serial cable can't be discovered, management can't be discovered, because these two are functioning from firmware, not from the OS level. Okay, so when it is discovering everything, first it will discover this 150 GB hard drive and it will install. Just give me a moment. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm back. So first it will discover 150 GB hard drive and it will install it. Later on, it will discover these two network cards and it will give you a numbering saying 0 and 1. The numbering is something like VMNIC 0 and VMNIC 1. Remember. Okay. So what happens? It will discover two NIC cards, and during the installation, it will create one internal switch. You call it as vSphere standard switch. You call it as vSphere standard switch, and what will happen? It will connect to the first cable, or whatever the discovered NIC cards are there. It will connect to the first NIC card and start communicating from outside world like this. Okay, now this will have two components. This will have two components. One is VM kernel port, another one is port groups. Okay, remember, one default switch will be created and it will start using the first cable, and it has two components, kernel port and port group. Remember, I gave some IP address. What kind of IP address? 192.168.30.51. I gave this IP address. So whatever the IP address that you assign to this host, right, this host, that will be displayed under kernel port. That will be displayed under kernel port as a same thing, 192.168.30.51. This will be displayed under kernel port. In short, from your laptop or across the globe, whoever is accessing, okay, if you are trying to access ESXi host, ESXi host means outer box, the physical box. If you are trying to access the box, then who will respond back? Kernel port will respond back to requester. Now imagine I have one virtual machine here. On top of the ESXi, can I create a VMs? Yes. So I have three virtual machines here. So yesterday, remember the VLAN 1, VLAN 10, VLAN 20, VLAN 30, and so on XYZ. Hello? Okay. So these VLANs, whatever the VLANs that we discussed yesterday, where we will create, we create on this switch as well as on this switch, right? So these switches contain actual VLANs or VLAN properties. So these properties will be utilized here under port group. So for each VLAN, you need to create one dedicated port group here. Port group means logical mapping of your VLANs in physical switch. Okay, so let's say, for example, this is VM which is running on VLAN 20. This VM which is running on VLAN 247. This VM I want to put it on VLAN 1. So what I will do, I will create three different port groups. I'll mention VLAN IDs. VLAN IDs are actually created here. So here you'll not create or manage any VLANs or create or manage any IP ranges, something called port groups. You'll just create something called, port groups. You'll create it here. So this VM will go and connect here. This VM will go and connect here, and this VM will go and connect here. Means, for example, I have one more VM which is running on VLAN 1 only. This will come and connect to the same port group. Understood what I'm saying? So port groups are logical mappings of your VLANs in the physical switch, and if you are trying to access VM, one Windows server is there, you are trying to RDP it. So this request, RDP request, will go to here like this via this cable. Once it reaches here, kernel port won't respond. So it will have another connection like this. So port group will respond. This is kernel port. This is port group. Port group, which port group? RDP, which VM? This VM. This VM has a VLAN 10. VLAN 10 has some dedicated IP range. So this port group will route it to this via like this, and then you'll get a response. Understood? Or any confusion or any questions up to this? Hello,
No,
Vivek, you there? Hello. I don't know, man. He's not even responding. It's okay.
I think it's a headphone problem.
Maybe. Okay. So let me show you the same thing. What I said, I have this ESXi host, and what is the IP? 151. Let me go to vCenter ESXi host, one ESXi host. What is the IP? Ping, sorry, NS lookup 192.168.30.51. So what is this? This is the host name. So if you look at, this is the first host, 01, right? So I'll go to 01 and networks. You'll see one VM network is by default, it is created. It's okay. I'm not interested in this. So let me go to configure virtual switches. You'll see vSphere standard switch. Standard switch. So normally in older versions, it will clearly written here vSphere standard switch. Okay, and you see one kernel port, and it has the IP attached. So connected to NIC 0. If you recollect the picture, this is NIC 0, right? VM NIC 0. And there is one default port group which has been created by default if you place any VM. So let me explain this as well. So in this picture, if you look at, I have one ESXi host and it has one switch. Switch has two components. So a switch has two components. One is kernel port, another one is port group. Both are connected to, sorry, both are connected to one cable called VM NIC 0, right? So this is by default configuration. This is by default configuration. So this is connected to one switch, and there is another cable which is connected to another switch, second switch, right? Now I said you have a VPN or firewall you placed and connected VPN connected, these two connected to VPN, and you're coming in. Once you're coming in, the request will go here, it will come here. If you are accessing a host, kernel port will respond. If you are accessing any VM, this port group will respond. Now the kernel port and port group, both the data is going on NIC 0 and NIC 1 is empty. You are not using it. If you want to, you can see the NIC 1 physical adapters. You'll see VM NIC 0, VM NIC 1. VM NIC 0 is used by switch 0. VM NIC 1 no one is using, sitting idle, right? So this shouldn't be the case. In real time we don't use like this. And one more thing, I said by default one port group will be created. By default, go to switches, one port group will be created with name VM network. What is the name? VM network. So by default this VM network port group, by default this VM network port group will support VLAN 30. During the installation it has been set to the default VLAN which we selected. So the kernel port is running on VLAN 30, right? Kernel port is running on VLAN 30, 192.168.30.51 means VLAN 30. So by default, if I place any VM here, What kind of VM? Any VM. Let's put any VM. I'll say 192.168.30.200. If I give this IP, it will start functioning and you can access it from your laptop. This is VPN, remember. So let me show you this. For this, I need a storage. So quickly I'll create a data store, but I'll not explain any storage stuff. Okay, I'll not explain any storage stuff at the moment. I'll simply create, go to action, options will move here and there. Storage, new data store. Next, host 01 underscore local. So just remember like this. That's it. Because I need a data store, then only I can place the VM. So let me mount. I don't have the OVF file. So what I will do, go to, it will not mount. Okay, I know. So 192.168.1.120. 168.120. My I don't know username password from my laptop because I used to log in with thumbprint or the pin number. Let's okay, leave it. What I will do, I'll go back. Let's downloads. So there's a file called Tiny Linux. I need this one. So let me copy this over here. I need this file. Okay. Now go to first ESXi, right click, deploy OVF template from local file, browse this one, right? Tiny Linux. Next, what is the VM name? Demo VM1. Okay. And now I'm creating it on ESXi host 1. Fine. I'm not touching 2 and 3. That will do it later on. Okay. Now with the details, fine. Let's use this much storage and it will deploy on this local data store. I'll always select thin provisioning and see by default it is asking on which network you want to deploy. It is, if I click on it, there's nothing, only VM network, default one. Fine, finish. See, VM1 has been created and is simply, still it is refreshing. Yeah, what happened? Just a moment. Else, okay, let me try to deploy once again. If you are still facing an issue, we'll reboot and try. Okay, next I'll use thin provisioning, VM network, finish. Import OVF. Done. I don't know for the first time why it is failed. Okay, now you'll see you can power on the VM. Remote console. Actually I want to log in with the remote console because it has some GUI problem. Let me try it out from here. 100% sure it will not work here in my system because at the end it will look for DNS. Let's see. See, this is the problem because you'll not be able to resolve the DNS. Fine. I don't have any other alternative. Let me go with web console, or else we'll try some other options later on. Always allow. Web console. Okay, so it's working somehow. Control panel, network, and what kind of IP address we have to give? 192.168. Let me come out and ping 192.168.30.200. I said it is not reachable, right? Not reachable. Now inside, I'll go inside again. 30.200. And what is the gateway? 30.1 is gateway. And I'll say I'll put Google DNS and I'll apply, come out, and you see started pinging, right? If you want from inside, go to control panel, open terminal, ping google.com. See, it is reaching google.com as well from my machine. But if I change IP, means let me reboot. Now again, if you reboot, it will lose the IP. That's fine. So see, once I reboot it, you should get a timeout here. See, timeout. So once I reboot, it will lose the IP. That's a different story because it is not the real virtual machine. I just want to check some network stuff. So control panel. Now I will not give any IP related to VLAN 30, 168.20.200, and 20.1 is gateway, right? 4.4, and apply. You come out and try to ping it. Which IP I gave? 20.200. You will not be able to ping it because see in this picture. So I have my base ESXi. What is my base ESXi IP? 192.168.30.51, right? This is my base ESXi. That means this cable will allow VLAN 30. Okay, and by default this port group works for VLAN 30 only. If you want to use additional VLANs, you have to create manual port groups. How many manual port groups that you have to create, man? If your company has 200 VLANs, so you need to create 200 different port groups in your VMware ESXi host so that it will work. Understood what I'm saying? Or still confused? Hello.
We create on firewall
We
100 VLAN.
don't create it on firewall. Okay, yesterday in the physical switch I logged into the physical switch and I have shown you VLAN 1, VLAN 2, VLAN 3, VLAN 10,
Yes, yes.
20, 30. Okay, imagine your company has 200 such VLANs.
Okay, okay.
Okay, there is no
Okay.
firewall, there is nothing. Don't go to beyond the imagination because we are
So
discussing only networking.
I told firewall to switch.
No, not firewall to switch, from switch to your virtual switch. Okay, now do you think this configuration will survive? Now what happened? You have one cable which is up and running. If something goes wrong, this cable is corrupted. What happens? Server is up and running and your host will disconnect from the network and all your VMs will be disconnected from network because your all VMs, let's say you have multiple VMs here. Okay, these VMs connected to port groups. So everything will be communicated via this cable only. Okay, so if this cable is corrupted, your host is down, all your VMs also down. Then there is a single point of failure. Single point of failure means you just put 10 lakhs investment and server is up and running. Okay, and 2 lakhs ESXi license, server is up and running, and around another 2 lakhs Windows license. So total you spend 14 lakhs on this server. Okay, to run some business. Now 20 rupees cable corrupted. Imagine 2 meters cable which is around 20 or 200 rupees, let's say. Okay, not that cheap. 200 rupees cable, 200 rupees cable is corrupted. Now your whole business is down and your 14 lakhs investment is in dilemma state for 1 hour or 2 hours. Do you think it is possible? Yes, it is possible if you don't plan it well, or if you don't plan it properly, I can say. Understood? Hello.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So what I have to do, I need to do some modification in the configuration. What kind of modifications? Let's see. Sorry. struck. Let me reopen it. Okay, so I said I have a ESXi host, right? And I said I have purchased with 4 cables. No, I said I have purchased with 8 cables now. Can I purchase with 8 cable or not?
Yes.
Hmm? I can request 8 cables, right? When I purchase ESXi host. So imagine I have physically I'm talking about 8 cables. One is ILO, right? Another one is 10101 serial cable, which you will leave it here. Agree?
Yes.
Okay. So I still have how many cables for production?
6.
6. Means if I install ESXi, I will log in into the ESXi and check for cables. You will see VMNIC 0, VMNIC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right or wrong? These two you will never see inside the ESXi. Or if you have a Windows server, if you convert this into Windows server, don't install ESXi, just install Windows. Even though you log into the Windows server, you will see 6 cables. You will not see these two because these two are connected in firmware and they are managing via firmware only.
Yes. Yes.
Agree on this?
Yes.
Okay. So how to bring this configuration? I'll do some tweaking here. So I'll go to my base ESXi server. Where is my ESXi01? And I'll go to edit settings. I'm building the lab. Okay, in real time, you have to purchase these cables. I'll add 4 more cables. 4 more cables. Okay, save it. Saved successfully. Now you go to your vCenter and ESXi. Go to configure. Go to configure. Minimize the rest of the things which I don't require because I'm more concentrated on network switches. I have one standard switch. Okay, this is basic configuration, and I have how many kernel ports? One kernel port to communicate. Go to physical adapters, refresh. How come these are not coming up? You should see 6 here. Okay, strange. Go to edit settings. Sometimes it requires reboot, sometimes it will auto discover. Let me do one thing. VMNIC 3, net 3. What is this? VMNet 3. Okay, so let me do one thing. I'll quickly restart. Okay, we'll wait for some time. I'll quickly restart. So let it reboot. Meanwhile, we'll discuss something else. So it's getting rebooted. See, if it is rebooting, the virtual machine, see, it got disconnected. Okay, so minimize and go to this picture. Now I'll do configuration in such a way. Okay, so this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These two are not visible. Okay, so imagine I have switch 1, switch 2, another set of two switches, switch 1, switch 2. Okay, I mean, in short, 4 switches are there, physical switches I'm talking about. So I will connect one cable here, I will connect one cable here, I'll connect one, I'll connect another one here, and this is also I'll connect here and I'll connect here. Possible? And all the 4 switches on the back end anyway connected to some VPN. Possible? Okay. Now, what is the default configuration, boss? You have a internal switch and two things, kernel port and port group, and both are connected like this. So the data communication is something like this. Now I need to break this out. How to break this out? Can I create a break this like this? Can I break, sorry, can I break like this? I will dedicate the first default switch with kernel port, and I will say please use these two cables, and I want to create some additional switch here. I can create a multiple switches. Okay, and I will dedicate port group. I will say these two cables. Okay, now kernel port is responsible for what? Host traffic, and port groups are responsible for virtual machine traffic. Okay, so from my VPN I connected to my laptop. From here, now I have 192.168.30.51. Also there is one VM, two VMs are there. Imagine two VMs. I create two port groups here. Okay, one VM is connected to one port group, another VM is connected to another port group. So I assign two different IPs, 192.168.10.25, which is VLAN 10. Another 192.168.20.25, which is VLAN 20. Basically, my ESXi server is running on which VLAN, boss? VLAN 30. But my VMs are running on VLAN 10 and 20 and so on and so on and so on. It's my wish how I want to configure. Based on my customer requirement, I will customize this. Okay, from my laptop, if I log into this, or if I ping this, so traffic will come via like this. It will go to this switch, via this switch. It will go to kernel port and it will respond back. No, 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 no. Okay, this cable is corrupted. Still, my traffic can go like this. It can go via this switch, via this cable, kernel port, right? So at any point of time, if this cable is gone, I have this, right? Or if the switch itself, whole switch is gone, no problem. I have a new switch, another standby switch. If this port itself is gone, no problem. I have this port. So at any point of time, I have a redundancy. What is mean by redundancy?
Duplicate.
No, you have a four-wheeler. Okay, on your backside dicky, you'll have spare tire. Why you need a spare tire?
Backup.
Okay, then why can't you maintain four? Because you have four tires, right? Running.
Yes.
Okay, so That's a different story. If you are maintaining 4 tiers means shocking. Similarly, I need a redundancy. So if this is gone, at least this will help me, right? So that my ESXi server will not go down. Similarly, now from my laptop, I'm trying to access this VM. So traffic will go like this. It will go via this cable like this. One path. Another path is same traffic will go to second switch and via this cable, sorry, via this cable like this. It will go, right? And 4 and 5, leave it for now. I will show you when to use it. That is the reason why I have mentioned in a different color. So can we do this testing quickly in 5 minutes? Then we can stop here. Tomorrow we can discuss more on this. Okay, so let me go to vCenter and first ESXi host. Now you will see after reboot, after reboot,
Now NIC card showing.
0 to 5, 0 to 5, 6 NIC cards, but only one is using. Rest of the 4 or 5 are not used. So how to customize? Just wait and watch. I said I have a default switch boss. Okay, in this default switch, kernel port and port group both are there. Sorry boss, I don't want to use this configuration. I will simply remove this port group from here. Gone. Port group is gone. Now only kernel port. But I need 2 cables boss. So manage physical adapter, add NIC 1. NIC 1 select. Okay. Okay. Done. Okay, updated switch. Now you will see VM NIC 0 and NIC 1 for NIC 0 and NIC 1. If you select this, both are functioning. See, both are active only. Right? So kernel port now it can communicate via these 2 cables. You want me to test? Yes, we can test it. How to? Ping 192.168.30.51. It's pinging. Now both the cables are up and running. Right, both the cables are up and running. What I will do, I'll come here, I will go to this edit settings, I'll simply select the first cable, connect, remove it. Still, see, first one is removed, one cable is gone, still your server is running, right? There is no ping loss. If the second cable is also gone, then there is a problem. You understood? Now if you look at here, one cable is gone, still your server is responding via kernel port because another cable is there. You see, no ping loss, nothing. Okay, if I remove the second cable, then there is a problem. Means you have a four-wheeler, you are carrying with one Stephanie. If one tire is punctured, means one tire is having some issue. Okay, if it gets punctured, then you simply park it aside and replace the Stephanie and go on. No. If a two tires are punctured at the same time, means nothing will happen like that. Someone is doing intentionally. Don't come out of the car. Right? Same thing here. If the two cables are gone at a time, that means someone is doing something intentionally inside the data center or somewhere. Now you see ping is lost. Understood? Okay. So why you need two cables? For redundancy purpose. Clear on this?
Yes, sir.
or right? So now server is back online. This is for kernel port. Now, can I create a new switch? Yes, I can create a new switch. How? Add networking. For which purpose you are creating a new switch? You are you are creating for virtual machine port groups or for kernel port. Kernel port is already there. I don't want to create a new kernel port. Okay, we will create a new kernel port whenever we require it. That is during the HADRS testing. For now, during the network testing, I don't require any additional kernel port. I require port group. Now select the virtual machine port group. Next, now you have any switch or you want to create a new switch? No, I want to create a new switch because I don't have a switch. Only one switch is there which I allocated to kernel port. Now I need a new switch. Maximum transfer units 1500 bytes, and that's the default configuration. And how many NICs you require for this? This also require 2 NICs, boss. So 2 and 3. 2 and 3 I've assigned to new switch. Next, what is the VLAN ID? VLAN 10. VLAN ID is 10. You have to type it manually. Okay. Port group name. I'm giving port group name VLAN 10 and VLAN ID 10. Next, finish. So minimize this. If you expand the second switch, switch is created and it has port group with the VLAN ID 10, and you have 2 cables for this. Okay, can I add multiple port groups? Yes, you can add multiple port groups because company has 200 VLANs, as I said. So for 200 VLANs, how many port groups we have to create? 200 port groups. So add networking, virtual machine networking. Next, existing switch only. Yes, browse. Existing switch only this time. I don't create a new switch. Next, what you are doing? I want to create a new port group, VLAN 20. Again, remove this, put VLAN 20 here. Next, finish. Now you have two different VLANs, two different port groups matching to your VLAN 10, VLAN 20. Okay, matching to your requirement. Can we deploy quickly two VMs and test it? Let me go to vCenter. The first one is no longer required. I'll delete from disk. Delete from disk. Now I want to deploy new virtual machine. Deploy. I said one VM. Okay. Next, I'll say web server. Next, on ES6i1, validating. Okay. Next, I'll put it on the same storage, thin provisioning. Let's see if it works. Next, and I'll put it on VLAN 10, not on VLAN 20. I'll put on VLAN 10. Web server is on VLAN 10. Remember. Finish. Let's wait until this deployed. Strange. Let's see. So it's still deploying. Okay, finally deployed, man. Refresh. So server is deployed on ESXi host 1 and running on VLAN 10. Remember, server is running on VLAN 10. I want to deploy one more server. I can right click, deploy OVF template, or else what I will do, I have another option here. Right click on the VM, clone the VM, clone virtual machine. This option is available only in vCenter. Okay, so app server, application server. Now I'm cloning a new VM called application server. I'll put it on the same ESXi host, same as original VM, and yes, customize hardware a little bit, virtual machine hardware. Let's see. So everything is fine, but I don't want to put this on VLAN 10. I want to put this on VLAN 20, right? Application server is on VLAN 20, web server is on VLAN 10. Finish. Why I need two different machines in two different VLANs? Because web server should talk to internet, application server should not talk to internet. Right? So two VMs are up and running. Let me select app server, web console. This is my application server. Right click. So control panel. What is the VLAN for app server? Hello? 20.25 is the IP. That's it. I have applied. So now try to ping 20.25. It's pinging, right? My 20.25 VM is working, which is on VLAN 20. So let me go to web server, web console. What is the web server IP? 10.25. Okay. So control panel, network 192.168.20.26. I'll give just for testing purpose. Okay, now what you can do, ping 192.168.20.26. It will not work because web server I put it on VLAN 10. Now I assign IP VLAN 20. How it will work? It will not work. Either you change the IP or you change the VLAN in the backend. If I change the VLAN in the backend, simply right click, edit settings. Okay, just keep on watching this. It is not pinging, right? The moment I select this VLAN 20 and click OK, the moment I select this VLAN 20 and click OK and see, it should start pinging, right? Okay, but this is not the case. This is my web server, boss. I want to put it on VLAN 10 only. So let's start pinging this. So I will change the VLAN again. I will change the VLAN again to 10 because web server, and go to web server console and come back. Sorry, change this IP first, 10.25. and 10.1 is the gateway. And if you want to send the data to internet, give the internet DNS. Okay, now you go to setup, terminal, ping. If you ping the google.com, it should ping. Ping google.com. See, it's pinging, right? From inside the server, you are able to reach google.com, and from outside, you can ping 10.25 as well. But for 20.25, from outside it is pinging, but from inside app server, if I ping google.com, it will not ping because I haven't assigned proper DNS. See, google.com bad address, google.com bad address. Understood? So far what we did, this we have tested. Okay, so the different switch is not there, but you have to imagine few things. But how I simulated, watch the video carefully. Once again, you will understand how the traffic is moving inside the virtual machine or inside the ESXi, and how you can assign multiple switches, multiple standard switches, and route the traffic, and also how you will configure your ESXi or your ESXi virtualization environment with high availability in terms of network standpoint. Clear? Any questions? Hello? Any questions from anyone? Understood? Vivek, any questions? Okay, fine. Let me stop the recording here. What we will do is, we still have a lot of stuff to discuss in the networking part. In the standard network itself, I still need to do some of the testing scenarios that we will continue tomorrow. Okay, let me stop here. Thank you.